So, as we all know, I mean, I hope we all know, The Mandalorian is in full swing. This season is comprised of 8 episodes. We are now out of 6 of 8. And you know what? Fuck all has happened this season. I'm gonna be honest. Like, look, I really liked The Mandalorian. You know, I really liked season 1. I thought season 1 revitalized my love for Star Wars after the sequels. And season 2 was like almost like a love letter for anybody who watched Rebels or the Clone Wars, or they liked the prequels or the originals. Like, it was so good. It was so good. Season 3, I had high hopes for this season. But now that we are about 6 episodes in, I have come to the realization that I think a lot of people are coming to this realization as well, that there's almost no fucking point to this season at all. Like, I know that sounds like awful, but it's fucking true. Like, going into this season, we all had the idea that, you know, Din Djarin, the wielder of the Darksaber, he's wielding it on this fucking official poster above Mandalore. There's Mandalore right there. He was gonna wield this Darksaber and could possibly be like the ruler of Mandalore. Despite not being Mandalorian, he could usher in a new new age, I should say. Right? Well, in the latest episode 6, no, that is not the case at all, because he ended up Here, I'm going to pull up the episode on my other monitor, and I'm going to give you a rundown of what exactly happened, because like, last week, I didn't talk about last week's episode, but last week we had this whole idea that, like, so they went back to Navarro, right, and they were like, okay, and so this sect of Mandalorians, they're gonna live on Navarro now, you know, as their new, like, I don't remember what they call it, but basically their new hideout, right? They're gonna live here. They offered Mandalorian land. He's taken the land. Now those people are gonna live there happily ever after, you know. But then we get this weird fucking plot where it was like, now Bo-Katan just suddenly, almost seemingly out of nowhere for me, just kind of just got to take off her helmet after, like, being in it for a while, and now she can, like, walk amongst this sect of Mandalorians because the armorer deems that it's okay. Right? And it's like, okay, hold on. The whole fucking first half of this goddamn season was all about, like, Din, you know, like, going to Mandalore so that he can be, like, a part of the Mandalorians again, because he took his helmet off. Right? And now the armorer, who's the one who said, fuck you, Din, you gotta go do this shit because you took your helmet off. Now she's like, oh, hey, Bo-Katan, you can take your helmet off. It's okay. Why? Because you've walked both ways. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad plot line, but I'm saying it's bad in the context of what's already happened in this season. You know what I mean? And I know I'm not the only one that feels this way, because, you know, I have checked now, and I will pull it up before I pull up the actual episode. But, like, I was looking. You might, if you like Star Wars theory, you might be familiar with this exact article. But as you can see here, the Nelson viewership ratings for The Mandalorian, they're low. Like, they are lower than season 2, and they are a lot lower than a lot of other things. And that's mainly because when it comes to The Mandalorian, right? The Mandalorian had an arc, and the whole arc was like bringing this little shithead back to his kind. That was the whole purpose, and that this bounty hunter, he's got a fucking heart of gold. He doesn't want to be involved in it, but at the end of the day, he's being forced to because he's a good person. And so his whole thing was take Grogu back to the Jedi or his actual people, whatever. he did that at the end of season 2. The plot and the premise and all of that, it was over with. It was over, right? And you could very well argue, and I know a lot of people are now, they're like, The Mandalorian could have, and given what might happen this season, probably should have ended at season 2. With, then Din going on to, like, have cameos in shows like The Book of Boba Fett, or maybe a Bo-Katan show. Because this is the problem with The Mandalorian Season 3, right? Not only is it picking up after a plot line that has been, in my opinion, satisfyingly concluded. It's picking up with a character that basically already had his arc. But then, like, they went in another show and reset that and gave him back to the gave Grogu back to the Mandalorian. So like all of this weight and all of the stuff that kind of happened at the end of season 2, it doesn't matter anymore. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying like you can't have Grogu go back to the Mandalorian, because I'm still of the idea that like Grogu will eventually go back and train with Luke. He's having the whole Jedi thing where he's having attachments and stuff, but then he's gonna come to the realization that having attachments is, well, it's not good, right? And he'd rather become a Jedi or whatever. Now, that's what I thought this season was going to be. I thought this season was going to be Grogu almost like being incapable of saving or helping out, Din. But if he actually had the training that he basically forsook to go and be with the Mandalorian again, well, maybe he could probably save him, He could probably, be the better foundling that he was supposed to be. But, he decided to leave, and then there would become regret, or maybe eventually Grogu finds out that the ancient enemy of the Jedi, while it is the Sith, it was also the Mandalorians, right? The Mandalorians had a lot of problems with the Jedi. So, if Grogu is Force sensitive, if Grogu's Jedi and Din's a Mandalorian, it kind of puts this, like, prejudice between them, and Grogu being young, he'd be like, oh, well, you don't actually love me, Father. I don't want to be here anymore. Take me back to Luke, I thought, but at this point in the season, none of this, like, character building towards that has really happened, because we are more focused on Bo-Katan. And it makes me wonder, is like, why didn't they just give Bo-Katan her own show? Because as of right now, The Mandalorian in The Mandalorian is sidelined. They're doing the same shit that they did to The Mandalorian that they did to Boba Fett in the Boba Fett show. They're putting him in the background. I found a good tweet yesterday that kind of surmises this. Let me get it here. Yeah, so with the new Barbie movie coming out, right? You got stuff like this where it's it's fucking Barbie is everything. That's Barbie right there. This Barbie. Look at that. And this is Ken. He's the Ken doll. And you know what? Like, this is probably the perfect, like, analogy, because, like, look at what fucking, look. This is where this man started. Alright, he had the Darksaber. He had, like, this ultimate goal of going to Mandalore and being redeemed, finding out and making sure that Mandalore is, like, safe, that people can go back. He's got, like, this dope-ass ship. And now, he ain't got none of that, bruh. Look at him. Look. I think the biggest mistake of Season 3 is not actually the mistake of Season 3. It's the mistake of what happened in the Book of Boba Fett. Because right now, in Big Sag, yeah, I know, he looks sad. Don't he look sad? But as I was saying, like, he In the Book of Boba Fett, they decided, for whatever the fuck reason, instead of saving this for season 3, right, they decided to have the whole thing where Grogu trains with Luke, and then, he ends up going back to the Mandalorian by the end of that show, which is like, well, okay, but why couldn't you have done that in more detail in The Mandalorian Season 3, so that by the end of Season 3, you could say that, okay, let's say Din gives up the Darksaber, right? Right? He's following around Bo-Katan. He has become second fiddle in his own show. But then, Grogu wants to come back to him. Right? Grogu comes. Grogu comes back to his father. And then you could say that, like, Din's entire thing now becomes, well, I'm sorry, Bo, look, as much as I want to help you, I got to protect my fucking kid. So I can't, alright? He needs to be, like, well-trained, and I can't help you reclaim Mandalore while training him. And then he goes off on his own thing, which then pisses off Bo-Katan, and there's conflict there. You know what I mean? Or fuck, maybe he goddamn keeps the fucking Darksaber instead, and he's like, you know what? Instead of this, I choose him. But he keeps this, and it pisses her off because she's like, you motherfucker, we need that. Give me the goddamn Darksaber. And he's like, no, Bo, no. I'm not going to fight you for it, because in order for you to take it, I'm going to have to fight you, and I don't want you to fight me. And then, conflict and character development and interesting shit happens. Instead, we get Jack Black and Lizzo. No, I kid you not. Like, Jack Black and Lizzo actually made an appearance in fucking this latest episode of The Mandalorian, and it was like this weird side plot that, like, look, if The Mandalorian, like, the way they are structuring this season is like The Bad Batch, right? The Bad Batch, just like the Clone Wars, The Bad Batch has a lot of filler. Right? It is a lot of filler episodes, but then by the end of it, the filler kind of becomes, like, really important. Like, they had the whole Pabu filler episode where everybody's like, why the fuck they on this planet? Like, can we go do something with Crosshair or something? And then by the end of it, like, well, then now they're going to go retire on Pabu. So their whole, like, idea of, like, them going to Pabu now matters in the grand scheme of the story. Right? But the thing is that with the Bad Batch is that the Bad Batch has, like, what? How many episodes does the Bad Batch have? Like 15? Something? I'm going to look right now. The Bad Batch. How many episodes did the Bad Batch actually have? 16 episodes. This show, The Mandalorian, has 8. It's half the fucking runtime. And more than halfway through that runtime, we're getting an episode where, like, instead of Bo-Katan going and recruiting Mandalorians and us getting more Mandalorian lore and us, like, finding out more about, like, maybe the purpose of the Darksaber and all this type of stuff, we get literally Jack Black, Lizzo, and then an episode about droids. Which are like, okay, that's fine. But it's not fine when it's episode 6 out of fucking 8. You know what I mean? And I know I'm not the only one that's made this point, because it's like, why are we having filler this close to the season finale? Like, because really, to be honest, it just feels like it's just been a waste of time. Like, I feel like watching this season, my time has been wasted. And I don't feel that way about The Bad Batch. I didn't feel that way about The Mandalorian Season 1 or 2. Because they had, like, this linear plot line that they followed. And this one, it's been all over the place. Because, like, everybody's thought going into this, well, at least mine, right, was that, like, okay, this is going to be all about reclaiming Mandalore. The only motherfuckers that have set foot on Mandalore is Din, Grogu, and Bo-Katan. No other Mandalorian has been there yet. Like, you think that they would have taken this conclave of Mandalorians, now that Mandalore is safe, right? And just be like, okay, let's go to Mandalore. We can set up a base camp, and we can start trying to live here again. Or something, you know? Do something. Or fuck, like, as soon as they get back, maybe Bo-Katan finally, like, the armor goes to her, and instead of 2 episodes after the fucking fact, she does it right then and there and says, you're going to be the great uniter. You go and unite the Mandalorian clans. And then the rest of the season becomes this misadventure with Din following Bo-Katan with Grogu, and they're going to all these places to get all the Mandalorians back, and we can talk about all the different Mandalorian clans and see all their different crazy fucking cultures, because like the Mandalorians, right, they got a lot of clans and a lot of different like beliefs and motives and a lot of different ways they do things. And like, so every fucking episode we could get new shit about, you know, Mandalore and the Mandalorians, so that eventually at the end of this fucking season they all get together on Mandalore. And then season 4 maybe is like they have established like a small outpost on Mandalore or something like that, you know what I mean? Or maybe they get into conflict with Moff Gideon or some shit because he's still out there, you know, like something that wasn't this. You know what I mean? Oh. But yes, I feel you. Yeah, I know. Look, I'm only like kind of upset. Look, I don't hate Bo-Katan because like I grew up with like the Clone Wars, right? So Bo-Katan is like one of my fucking favorites, right? But like seeing how they have treated this man in his own show after they did the same to Boba Fett is kind of like, oh god, maybe you should have stopped at season 2 and gave Bo-Katan her own show. You know? Like, hell, I would have liked to see a show where it's Bo-Katan splits of her crew and then the Mandalorian shows up one day on some sort of a fucking quest. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The Mandalorian has this aura about him now, right? Because this motherfucker, alright? We could talk all day about how fucking cool Bo-Katan is. We can talk about how Andor was great. We can talk about how the Bad Batch was amazing, you know. The final season of the Clone Wars was incredible. Well, this motherfucker right here, the Mandalorian, is the sole reason, and I will go on record of saying this man saved Star Wars. Because without him, you had the sequels, and everybody was completely fucking jaded to Star Wars. They didn't want anything to do with Star Wars. I was one of those people. I was on the fence about this goddamn show, and then I watched it, and I was like, this is exactly what the sequels are missing. This is the Star Wars that I want. This is fucking badass. I love this. And everyone else thought that as well. So put some respect on the Mandalorian's name. Don't make him a fucking side character in his own show, please. Don't do that. Look, there's only 2 episodes left of this season. I don't know where it's going to go, but I do not have high hopes. All I will say, we waited 2 years for this because there was no season last year or the year before that. And it was not very good. And it's not very good thus far. So, the last 2 episodes better be bangers. Or like, season 4 is going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting. You know what I mean? That's just me. That's just me, you know. I don't know.